Who's Super Tojo brother? Do 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 do. Is this Super Tojo brother? Do 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 do. Okay, come on. Let's read Martin Luther King. Let's go. I'm excited. I'm waiting for. What are we on? Chapter 4 or something?
Yeah.
Okay, go. I'm so excited. Like he's about to get rights for African Americans.
He already did that.
I mean more rights. Super rights. Super rights. We're about to have super rights.
Yeah.
Working together, the power to have rights. We're gonna have rights, super rights. Hold on. Super rights. Okay, go.
The majority of people at the meeting decided to give a chance to live to its promises. Not long afterwards, the students ended their sit-ins. The Atlanta schools were desegregated, and the lunch counters at the hotels were open to black patrons.
What? So what's that mean? At school, it was even, like black kids and white kids could eat together, and at hotels too, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that almost is like now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
The gains made in Atlanta did not spread easily to other parts of the South. Other methods of protest were needed to end the racial restrictions. The idea of freedom rights were created by the Congress of Racial Equality Corps. Its courageous leader, James Farmer, they intended to fight segregation and transportation. The Corps' aim was to test the Supreme Court decision that had outlawed segregated seating on interstate buses and trains to make their point. White members of the Corps would sit in the back of the bus. The blacks would sit in the front. They would all refuse to move when ordered.
So they want to make sure. Okay, so now in Georgia, like there's more desegregation, but in other parts of the South, they're still segregated. So they want to prove a point and try to get all the states to desegregate by forming a group of people that are going to ride the bus through the South, and the black people are going to sit in the front, and the white people are going to sit in the back. Because there's white people that want to help desegregate the South, you know, right?
Yeah.
There's people that want to help. It's not all white people don't want to help. Lots of white people want to help. So those white people are going to sit in the back of the bus. Yeah, and then the black people sit in the front, and that's going to anger the other white people that want the white people to sit in the front and the black people to sit in the back. And they'll be like, no, that's not right. And they'll be like, that's what we're trying to tell you. That's not right. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, go.
At every rest stop, blacks would attempt to use all the restrooms marked the whites only, and Ritters, all of them carefully chosen, arrived in Atlanta. They'd meet with Dirk King and his staff. Dr. King at his Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Martin decided to prove these courageous protesters with final support for their trip to Alabama. The reception for Freedom Riders in Anniston and Birmingham.
Wait. Freedom Riders in what?
Birmingham was rough.
And Freedom Riders in Anniston and Birmingham. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Those cities.
Was rough and violent.
So it was rough and violent. People trying to support them. It was rough and violent, man. That means what? White people were fighting? Oh, there's pictures. Let's see what are white people doing. What are they doing? What do you think they're doing?
No, I'm going wrong.
At what?
The bus.
At the bus of black people?
Yeah, I can't. Maybe since you're holding it that way, I can't show the pictures correctly.
Okay. All right, let's go.
Man, William Barbie was permanently paralyzed in the violent attack. The police commissioner, Bull Connor, was the governor and sympathetic to a group they said were lawbreakers. The courage of the Corps riders sparkled the nation. A group of students from Nashville assembled in Birmingham, promised to journey to Montgomery. Their fate was no different. They were set upon these thousands of racists who clubbed them with pipes and baseball bats. Along the rest of the nation, Dr. King sorrowfully watched the beatings and heard the name callings on television.
On what? On television.
Ralph, Martin told his friend in the river and Albany over the phone. I can't take any more on this. I'm on my way there. Robert Kennedy, who is now in the Attorney General, begged him not to, said he could not guarantee Martin's safety. A mass rally was called that evening. A Reverend Albany's church. The church was soon surrounded by an angry mob.
Uh-oh.
Heckling and shouting, the mob began throwing stones and tear gas containers through the windows.
You know what tear gas is?
What?
It's like a little can, and they throw it, and it like makes you cough. Like that. Seriously. That's what it does. Seriously. Okay, go. That's tear gas. You never want to smell tear gas.
Where was I?
Tear gas right here. Martin was hurried.
Martin was hurried to the basement and called the Attorney General. Kennedy promised that the federal marshals were on their way. Suddenly the mob outside was quiet. It was an eerie silence.
Oh, the mob got quiet when the police were coming, right?
Yeah. Martin peered through a window to see what was happening. He was happy to see that the marshals had arrived and was forcing the crowd to leave. Now Martin's followers inside could go home in peace and quiet. Things were not so peaceful though for freedom riders who determined to continue their journey to Mississippi against Martin's better judgment. And the Mississippi riders were arrested, and this made matters worse. Hundreds of protesters arrived at the scene only to be thrown in jail too. Soon, all across the South, freedom riders were boldly daring to defy the law. Dr. King and his asides worked around the clock, raising the money to pay their fines, only to see them arrested again. All over the world, people were aware of the violence and protests in the American South. It was impossible to ignore so many incidents of social unrest. The federal government had to take action now. Under the pressure of Attorney General Office and the Interstate Commerce Commission issued regulations ending segregated restrooms and interstate bus stations. Regulations in the effective November 1st, 1961, once more, with courage and commitment, with these bold young civil rights workers had accomplished in their major goal.
Okay.
But there would still be so many difficulties ahead of them. Caught in the middle of a social and political activity, Dr. King had very little time for his family, which now included 2 children, a 6-year-old Londa Yoki and 4-year-old Marty. Time with his children was more important to Martin, and he spent as much much time as he could with them, telling them all about his travels and experiences. He played games with them, told them jokes, he read them stories. Martin knew how important it was to read together and spend time as a family. There's also family trips to parks and playgrounds, but Martin was so busy in the basic raising of children that it seemed like Corona. In 1963, Martin and Coretta had welcomed 2 more children, Dexter and Bernice, an addition to his family obligations. Martin committed his church to beliefs. The beliefs were in. Oh wait, I forgot to show you the picture.
Okay.
Time with his children was important. In many ways, never ending. Fortunately, his responsibilities at the SCLC were made easier by the additional Reverend Watty Walker, the exclusive director, and the presence of Martin's lifelong friend. The Reverend Ralph Albany, who had now moved to Atlanta. Nothing could have pleased Martin more than to have his trusted friend Albany nearby. Over the years, getting close as 2 brothers, Martin often said that without a Reverend Albany, he would have never been able to achieve half of what he did. I want you to know how much I appreciate your loyalty, Martin told him many times.
So his good friend is Reverend Albany?
Yeah. And Albany was devoted to Martin attending the little Dusties in details that made it easier for Martin to handle larger and longer, more pressing assignments. For Martin, Albany would write in his autobiography.
Biography. Yeah.
By coming to Atlanta was an important ingredient of his life, something he had been determined to accomplish despite my pleas, and I didn't want to be saved from Montgomery. On the other hand, I can certainly see how much the friendship meant to me since I felt compelled to make the move despite the knowledge that my wife and children would suffer some displacement, and my congratulation at First Baptist would have to go through the ordeal of finding a new pastor. While the scoop of my ministry and the future of the civil rights movement played an important part in my decision. Finally, I think I made the move because Martin wanted me to come to Atlanta so badly. Now that the 2 friends were together, they could combine their talents with a crisis arose before long. There is indeed a new crisis in the nation's headlines. Like many parts of the deep South, Albany, Georgia, was their first move to originalize the students and local residents alike. Within a few days, a group of students sat down, according to plan, in the white-only waiting room of Albany Railway's bus terminal and refused to leave.
Okay.
Trying to lure members away from the NAACP. If the police ignored
you at, bro? We're at.
Chapter 5, Marching for Freedom. Martin returned once again to Albany.
To where?
To
Albany, Georgia.
In February 1962 to stand trial for his December arrest. Dr. King and Albany was sentenced to serve 45 days in jail or to pay a $78 fine. He will
$78
fine. We will serve this time, they said once in a voice. President Kennedy was upset when he heard that Martin was the one led to his prison library on a country road. The president quickly contacted the Justice Department. With the assistance Attorney General was seeking their release. Martin and Albany was freed under mysterious circumstances. The police chief told Martin that an unidentified black man had paid their fines. They learned later that the chief himself had arranged their release. The move that surprised them.
Who arranged it?
The chief. The move surprised them. The Albanese commented that he'd been thrown out a lot of places before, but I've never been thrown out of jail.
Are we wiping our nose with our shirt? There we go. Okay, be careful.
By having Martin and Albanese out released, the police chief had prevented them from gaining any publicity from their jail sentences.
Gaining any publicity from their jail sentence.
What does that mean?
It means like he let him out of jail because these guys are getting really famous right now for fighting injustice. So now things are getting put on television and they're in the newspaper and stuff like that. So every time they get arrested, the world is looking at, you arrested Martin Luther King and Reverend Abernathy, and now people are like, they're seeing that and they're horrified that like Georgia is acting like this, and the state of Georgia and the police department and the white people, right? And all it's doing is making Martin Luther King's his plan work even better. So they released him out of jail so there'd be no publicity, so nobody would see it. Nobody would see them working on the side of the road. Nobody would see them in jail and then be horrified that they arrested Martin Luther King, and they're saying the poor, unjust treatment that they're doing to African Americans, and minorities. So they just released him so nobody could see that. They don't want him to get any publicity from it. They just released him like, yeah, no, we're just gonna let you out, guy. We don't want nobody seeing none of that. Get it?
Yeah. The police chief had prevented them from getting any publicity from their jail sentences. This is the ways of Martin Luther King brought his message to the world. Toward the end of July, Martin was back behind bars of Albany. This time he spent 2 weeks in jail for demonstrating. He was released in August after a series of disappointing discussions. Martin left Albany, leaving the civil rights work to local people. When Martin left Albany, he was very depressed.
But you gotta start the sentence over. When you're young, you gotta start the sentence over.
When Martin left Albany, he was very depressed. Said Andrew Young, who was then a staff member at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. He knew what happened. Martin feared that civil rights movement in Albany might have sabotaged by the Justice Department. Martin was so depressed over this last defeat in Albany that he even lashed out of the FBI.
You've been lashed out at the FBI?
Picture. Take picture.
Okay.
Picture. Picture.
Okay.
Picture. For several months after Albany set back, Martin had a little contact with the public. He had seemed to be unhappy. Though friends told him about he had made a difference in Albany. At last he agreed. Made a difference in Albany. At last he agreed. Negroes have straightened their backs in Albany, Martin said. And once a man straightens his back, you can't ride him anymore.
Look, he said Negroes have straightened their back. And once you straighten your back, you can't ride them anymore. So your back's got to be bent for somebody to ride you. But if you stand straight and tall, they can't ride your back. So he's giving an example of like, you're not going to just take advantage of us no more. You know what I mean? What's up with your nose, bro? You got to blow your nose. Come on, it's awesome.
Negroes have straightened their backs in Albany. Martin said, once a man straightens his back, you can't ride him anymore. There are still white racists in the South who do not want equal rights for African Americans. Dr. King was speaking in Birmingham during an SSL convention when a white supremacist leaped on stage and struck him. After the attacker was caught by SSL members and police, Martin asked if no charges be brought. The system that we live under creates such people. Martin explained, I'm not interested in pressing charges. I'm interested in changing the kind of system that produces this kind of man.
So white supremacist was somebody like who's crazy, whites only. And the white supremacists attacked Martin Luther King. And then the police came. They're like, do you want to arrest him? And he's like, nah. Let him go. I'm not interested in punishing the type of person like America made this person. He's saying that the system that we were brought up in is making people like this, and I don't want to be a part of it. I don't want to press charges and have them arrested and punish them, because then all you do is make more people like that. And he's not about that, you know. So that's what he's trying to say. He's like, you know, I want to make a change, not continue the problem, you know. Interesting. All right, you bookmark it.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you later. We're in chapter 5 or something?
Part what?
I don't know. Part 5, I think. It's part 5. Part 5 right now.
Part 5, I guess.
Yeah.
Alright.
All right. Okay, look at